Good evening, everyone. Welcome to episode number 23 of the No Punches Pulled podcast. Fear not, your favourite Jay's Fight Talk is going to be with us very shortly. He's got other commitments. He's the busiest man in the space right now. But of course, Liam Tully's with me, and we'll try our best to keep you busy until he arrives. Liam, first up, mate, how's tricks?
Yeah, all good, mate. Any housewives out there waiting for JFT, we'll be with you. Sorry to disappoint for the time being. He will come and join us later. But
I thought I'd tee you up for the open goal, mate.
It's a tap-in. It's something Arsenal would still miss at the moment, but it's a tap-in. No, I'm all good, mate. It's a good weekend of boxing. Chatted about it with Jay last night. Chatted about it on my show as well. And it's wetted the whistle nicely to now dive into it with you boys tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. Looking forward to checking out your show over on STBX, Liam's Fight Night Picks with Luke at Simbox, isn't it, this week? So
that's cracking guest. Very knowledgeable guy. And make sure you check out his channel as well. Some great interviews with Andy Clark and Denzel Bentley in recent weeks on there.
Excellent stuff. Yeah, for sure, dude. DJ Pat, hope you're well, my friend, over in Sweden. Thank you, as always, for joining us. We've got a stacked show, as always. No review show this week. A little bit of a lighter schedule. So while we do wait for Jay, we're going to have a little chat about what's occurred this past weekend. We had Friday and Saturday boxing, as we do this weekend, which we'll come to a little bit later on. We'll wait for a new way for Jay, because that's probably the biggest talking point of the weekend. Not necessarily for the in-ring antics, but more of... Eddie Hearn saying he's not in the pound, should be out the pound for pound list. Obviously in jest, Eddie. We know you were joking.
Dalton Smith,
Dalton Smith headlined in Nottingham, Liam. We'll do it in one fell swoop. We don't need to individually break down every fight or anything like that. But what your overall assessment of the card? Obviously, Conor Walker delivered one of the best comebacks you'll ever see in the co-main event. Dalton blew out somebody who shouldn't have been in the ring with him. To be fair, for the European, which I believe is already vacated. What was your overall assessment of what happened in Nottingham?
Don't sleep on Ellie Scotney. I've said to you boys before, I think when she gets the right opponent, she'll catapult herself into being a superstar, and that's another step in the right direction. To overcome that nasty cut, so let's give some credit to Jimbo Thompson, I think it is, the cut man in the corner, for dealing with that. He done a great job, and for her to produce the performance she did, she is a very special female fighter that when she gets the right dance partner is going to catapult herself into everyone's space, if that makes sense. Harry Scarf was doing Harry Scarf things. He was doing what we kind of hoped he wouldn't do in terms of putting on a masterclass and not giving Conor Walker a sniff. He held his feet, didn't he, for just half a second too long in that 11th round, and that's all she wrote. Conor Walker sent Sam Jones and that fresh fade he'd had done on Fight Morning absolutely wild. It was, fair play to him. He's got himself a new contract with Matchroom off the back of it. I mean, British title level is probably Conor Walker's level. I think if he steps up to European and world level, he gets exposed. Let's remember he'd lost every round before the stoppage, but as a moment, as a comeback, absolutely fantastic. Main event, Dalton Smith is a problem. I would give him to Pitbull Cruz if Pitbull comes through on Saturday. I'm going there with him. I think that's the level we want to see now. He's vacated this European title, which was pre-agreed. So Pierce O'Leary and I can't remember who. Yeah, someone like that who can fight for the European belt. If Pitbull Cruz wins on Saturday, it's obvious he's not getting Adam Azim. Feed Dalton Smith to Pitbull Cruz.
I like
it.
I think that's a great fight.
Even if he's got to go stateside, I want to see that fight. Pitbull is a former world champion. He's an all-action fighter. Dalton Smith has only had 18 rounds in 23 months. 1 because of injuries and 2 because he blows opponents out of there. Pitbull Cruz is guaranteed to give him rounds, and if he beats Pitbull Cruz, there's no denying then he can go on to world level. So that's what I do with Dalton off the back of Nottingham on Saturday.
Yeah, I like it. I actually think that's we'll get into Pitbull Cruz, obviously, a little bit later in the show. He's fighting Angel Fierro. That should be a war in Vegas on Saturday. I completely agree with you. I thought Conor Walker was being comprehensively outboxed, landed a beautiful over-the-top right hand, fully deserves it. I'm a big fan of him. He'll fight anybody. I do agree with you on his ceiling as well, Liam. I have to be honest. And I completely agree with what you said about Dalton. I think the Pitbull fight is actually great. I'd like to see Dalton go stateside. Now you put that in my head. I don't really think the European style. I know he fought Zepeda last time. That was a great body shot. The Azim fight's not happening anytime soon, is it? Let's be honest. I can't even be bothered talking about Dalton and Azim. I feel like we've done that to the death as well.
It's not. Sorry, mate. It's not happening. It's so obvious what the route is going to be. The IBO is closely linked with the WBA. I think I'm right in saying. So they're going to move.
He's going to fight Puello or Martin, isn't he? Yeah. Dalton. That's probably the fight for him.
The EBU is affiliated with the WBC. He's got the WBC silver. Pitbull Cruz is a Mexican, so we can go in. But one thing I will say, and I've seen the comment from Rope-a-Dope, the EBU need to look at their top 15, because if Walid Weezer is the best they could offer, I could think of 5 boxers in the UK that alone that would have given Dalton a more competitive fight on Saturday night.
Yeah, I think
European belt is fastly becoming what was one of the most prestigious belts in world boxing. It's quickly becoming something you get annoyed if you picked up.
Look at the matchmaking you see for British titles versus European titles. There's often mismatches in. Evening, Dave, as well. Hope you're well, my friend. Everyone go and check out Rope-a-Dope boxing podcast, available on all the platforms and now over on YouTube as well. So yeah, completely agree with this comment as well.
It's a joke, mate. It's a joke.
Yeah, Sky and Scotney. I don't want that yet either, Pat. To be honest,
I know why she's doing it, because Ellie feels disrespected and she feels like Sky is Matchroom's golden goose. Katie Taylor aside, Sky is Matchroom's female golden goose. So she feels like by putting her name in that conversation, it's going to generate some traffic towards her. But she can unify where she is at super bantamweight. Then in another 18 months, that Sky Nicholson fight could be absolutely huge. But unify down here first. I mean, the Ring magazine still owe her a belt. That was her second defense of it. And she still actually hasn't got the belt. So Turkey, if you fancy sending a Ring magazine belt to Catford or to the gym in Lewisham, I'm sure Ellie would appreciate it.
I love it. Big up Wayne Herman. Hope you're well, my friend. As always, Wayne in the house, top man. Eddie wants Sheffield late summer, but Azim will not happen. Pat says Pitbull Cruz. Yeah, I'm into that as well. I do like that fight a lot. Pitbull versus Dalton. Quickly then, before Jay rocks in, Pacheco Nelson, there wasn't too much to report on. We did the watch long for Mercado versus Pedraza. It was what it was. Pedraza looks a bit washed. Also, Andy Cruz won on the card again, kind of same thing for 10 rounds, wasn't it, in fairness, although Andy Cruz is brilliant. But Pacheco versus Nelson was a very good fight. It actually went the way that I think you and Rope-a-Dope kind of predicted it, didn't you? You were kind of saying it would be nip and tuck, and it was. Pacheco did take over, didn't he, in the final, like 5 or 6 rounds. But it was nip and tuck for a while, and he was tested. I come out a bit higher on Pacheco than I was before, even though the fight went closer than I imagined.
Yeah, look, Nelson lost it in the middle rounds of the fight. From round 4 to round 10, he couldn't lay a glove on Pacheco, and I don't think I gave him a round in that period. I gave him the first 3, and I gave him 11 and 12, so I had it 7-5. If I'm being honest, that's how close I had to fight. I think the scorecards were a little bit wide. But yeah, Pacheco's experience in terms of that, where he's at and how he deals with fighters, showed a lot better than Nelson's in that fight. And it was those middle rounds that took it away. It was a good start and a good finish from Stephen Nelson, but he done nothing in the middle rounds, which allows Pacheco to build up a lead on the scorecards, definitely.
Yeah, 100%. Luca's in the house as well. Hope you're doing well, Luca. Yeah, it looks to be that way completely at the minute from the boxer side. We'll come into the Lipinets fight very shortly and what our overriding thoughts are on that. Dave Rope-a-Dope says, definitely Nelson's chin was absolutely immense. I don't even think Pacheco could believe it himself, but similar to Morrell, which we'll talk about with Kaladzic last time out, I think he realized he couldn't get Kaladzic out of there, similar to what Pacheco did with Nelson. And they can both box as well, Morrell and Diego Pacheco. So yeah, some interesting fights to come at 168 and 175 without question.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, just touching on Andy Cruz quickly, seen a few interesting comments this week saying some people can't wait for Keyshawn and Andy Cruz to fight because it will finally allow Keyshawn to show Andy Cruz who his daddy really is basically the rhetoric of some of these comments. Look, Andy Cruz was a seriously talented amateur for that long. that, bearing in mind this is only his 6th or 7th professional fight, of course he hasn't fully adapted over to professional style yet. Realistically, we're another 8 to 12 months away from seeing him and Keyshawn fight each other. Keyshawn's fighting Barancic for the WBO belt. He'll do a voluntary defense first, which won't be Andy Cruz. You can bet your bottom dollar on that. And then probably at the start of next year, we're going to see that fight made, aren't we? That's the path it's going down. In that time, Cruz can have another 2 fights, most likely. And we're already seeing progressions. Saturday night was a prime example of he realized he couldn't get the opponent out of there. So he works on some of the stuff he's been doing in the gym and banked the 10 rounds. 10 rounds banked like that is invaluable when he steps up the levels. I still think he beats Keyshawn Davis as a pro. I can't wait to see the fight. But let's be honest, it's another 8 to 12 months away still.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's really interesting. I don't know who I'd pick outright to win that. I want to see how Keyshawn looks against Barancic, which I think he'll pass with flying colours. But it's all about Cruz's style in the pros for me. Yeah, I like both the fights. I think he's ready, Pat. He is. The one I want to see most in Billy, but that isn't going to happen anytime soon, I don't think. But yeah, look, Plant is one that I actually think Pacheco would stop Caleb Plant. I think he'd knock him out. I honestly do. Balanga fight's interesting as well. But yeah, I think Pacheco will win that as well.
I'll tell you what they're going to do with Pacheco next. Jaime Munguia.
Yeah. Although there's a rematch clause with Serace, isn't there? So Munguia will have to.
Yeah, but if that doesn't come off for whatever reason, or if they can dangle a big enough carrot on the Pacheco fight to make a governing body waive it a rematch and give Bruno Serace step-aside money, that's what we'll see next, I think, for Pacheco. Probably September, October time. I think there is the rumoured date to get him back out, which is, I mean, we're in January. If we're waiting until September, October, it's too long to wait. So I believe it will be Jaime Munguia next for Pacheco.
Yeah, I think so. Right, we'll move into Inoue. I believe Jay's coming in imminently. Look, we watched it. He knocked out Yeon Kim in 4 rounds. It was, it's funny how it kind of happened when Kim was just waving him in, and it was what it was. The opponent was last minute. Sam Goodman was injured a couple of times. Here's Jay. Evening, my man.
Hi, boys. Sorry about that.
No, you're right. Just moved into Inoue, mate. Before we'll preview this week's events. Only just started on the.
A few seconds last now, Jay. So I'll just snip quickly.
Yeah, all good, mate. Just want both of your thoughts really on Eddie Hearn's comments first of all about, and it was in jest. It was tongue.
Ducking.
He's addressed them already. Not even the ducking. He said he should be removed from the pound for pound list for
why?
Because he's not fighting
his fighters.
In fairness, though, it is a clear number 1 versus number 2 situation, but there's politics in the way probably as well. Look, I mean, if he fights Picasso in Vegas in April and he's doing a Riyadh event, isn't he, in September? Surely that'll be MJ, surely.
I mean, you'd like to think so, but look, Eddie can say what he wants about removing people and he won't fight this and he won't fight. We don't know what's being said, what's being offered, right? You've got to understand that he is a megastar, right? He's beating everybody they put in front of him in his back garden, right? So he's not going to go out of his way to box on a matchroom show under Eddie's banner because Eddie says so for what Eddie says. He'll fight who he wants, when he wants, for what he wants. And I think Inoue's just, he'll sign contracts, whoever's put in front of him. I don't think they've offered anybody and he's contemplated it or said no. I don't think it's as simple as what Eddie's saying. I think he's got a plan. He's going through the motions with his team and he'll fight whoever he wants on his own terms. And I think the fact that Eddie says stuff in jest on social media, I think that makes it worse for him because I think
he's trying to create headlines, isn't he? You're right. And Dave at Rope said the same thing. He's pissing into the wind with it because they ain't gonna bite.
Boys, let's be really honest about it. Akhmadaliev is not a big enough draw to the general boxing audience to generate.
No one knows who he is.
It doesn't draw anything. That's the big issue. Even Eddie knows that he's having a bit of a joke. Anyway, he's not ducking MJ. He's not straight out ducking him.
No. Eddie can't come out and say that MJ, who is his own signed fighter, isn't a big enough draw for the Inoue fight. So what's the next best thing he can do? He can have a bit of a tongue-in-cheek joke and try and kid people into thinking and grab some fantastic clickbait by saying Inoue is not pound for pound. He's played it the right way. He's still got Akhmadaliev in the conversation, without addressing the big elephant in the room, which is MJ is nowhere near a big enough draw in comparison to Nakatani et al. For Naoya Inoue at this point. He's done it the right way. He's generating clickbait. He's generating headlines. But the bigger issue is your own fight. It's not a big enough star, mate. That's what it comes down to.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm with you on that one as well. But hopefully it happens in Riyadh in October, I think, was or December.
Saying all that, we want to see it in Saudi.
Yeah. Look, to be fair though, apparently Turkey
week.
said to Eddie, who can I get to fight Inoue? And obviously, if Eddie's making his case for MJ, then and Turkey throws enough money at it, if anyone's going to make it happen, it's
a negotiation tactic from both sides, I believe. I think Inoue barely speaks anyway, lets his team and his fights do the talking for him. Eddie ordinarily is the mouthpiece. Has to be for MJ anyway because he barely speaks himself. I think behind the scenes this fight's penciled in for a date back end of this year, early next year. I think all this is smoke and mirrors, possibly just like you said for sound bites. Never mind Inoue, just professional boxers in general. I hate hearing people say they're ducking and they're scared. It's also a business. The prize fighters. They do what they want to do for themselves. Fear, for me, doesn't play a part in any of it. The fact that they're in the ring as professionals shows that they're not afraid to fight. It's not about fear. It's about negotiating the right purse for the right fight at the right time. Ultimately, it's a business. Inoue doesn't need to rush anything. I mean, he got 15 million just for sponsorship, and I believe he's a multi-millionaire anyway without even leaving Japan. So he's not going to bend over backwards and sing to Eddie's tune. Eddie will have to sit in line and wait until Inoue and the team are ready. And when that is, we'll find out in due course.
Mm-hmm. I think the big thing as well that Eddie's realising is he knows the Warrens are making a case for Nick Ball to get an Inoue fight in Saudi. Yeah. Now, I have my views.
The A-side, mate.
Yeah, I have my views on that and his comments saying he's got to be the A-side. But the reality is, Nick Ball is someone who Turkey knows. He's fought on the Saudi cards. He's impressed on the Saudi cards because of his style. Nick Ball jumps above MJ for me. Not deservedly so, but he does it just on star value and what he's shown for Turkey. If it's Saudi, they're talking about it happening. So Eddie's got to generate some noise. He's got to do what he does as a promoter. But he also can't come out and throw his fighter on the bus and say he's actually not a big enough draw. That's why he's not getting the fight. So he's got to go about it this way.
Yeah, that does make sense, to be fair. Before we move on from Inoue, Dave's asked, who do we want to see next? It's likely it's Picasso in Vegas. Well, it is going to be in Vegas, but
it's Nakatani, but I'd love to see the Ball fight as well. But Nakatani for me, that's the fight.
I'd love to see Nakatani, but no, it's going to be Picasso in Vegas. I'm sort of resigned to that.
Yeah, well, his next fight is in Vegas. That's a fact. It's not official that it's Picasso, but it's unofficially official, isn't it? As Pat says here. Aside from that, I agree with the boys, but they're never going to do Inoue versus Nakatani or anything like that in Vegas. It's just business. It just doesn't make business sense, does it? So yeah, look, probably Picasso. Would love it to be MJ, but yeah, look, Picasso it is. Boys, let's get into what goes on this. We'll do Saturday, but obviously we've got the next gen card on Friday as well. We'll maybe have a chat about that later. But let's start with Adam Azim and Sergey Lipinets for the IBO Super Lightweight Championship. I'm not going to add of the world on the end. It's just the IBO Super Lightweight Championship. It's creating headlines. It definitely there's noise about it. Don't get me wrong, a lot of it's not good noise, but if you Ben Shalom and you boxer, I guess any press is good press where you're at currently. What are your thoughts on? I mean, let's be honest. The undercard is non-existent. We're all mixed martial arts fans. We know we'll watch the main event, obviously. But I mean, boys, I'll be straight honest with you. I've no interest in the undercard here on Saturday night. Put me out. Tell me I'm being miserable or something.
No, mate, you are being bang on. Look, you can't help it when you lose your co-main event at 11 days' notice. That can't be helped, and we're not for 1 second putting any blame on Shalom or Boxer for that. Callum Simpson stepping in is meaning that there's going to be some bodies in the arena and there's going to be some noise. That's what he's doing. But his opponent beat a 0-9 fighter in his last fight. So in reality, he's coming over to hold his hands up and see how long he can stand up for. Wait to be proven wrong, but that's the reality of what they've done putting Callum Simpson on this card. You say the Azim fight's generating noise, but it isn't for all the wrong reasons. It's for, well, you said it was going to be Dalton Smith. You're ducking Dalton Smith. Oh, I see what you're doing, Mr. Shalom. You're manoeuvring your fighter to a fringe world title because you don't believe he's ready for the big boys. And this is where the argument that Adam Azim is a victim of his own success comes into play. He's a 22-year-old that's already been a European champion, for what it's worth, against a geezer who hadn't fought in 27 months and never should have been in there at 44 years old when he challenged, Azim challenged him. You can't go backwards now. So O'Hara Davis was a decent step up from Enoch Poulsen. You can't now go backwards, back down to 8 rounders against.
You're happy enough to pick up the European belt. You're happy enough to pick up IBO belts. You can't, like you say, you cannot go to at the age of 21, 22. He's a wonder kid. He's brilliant, but you can't do this and then just go 2 steps backwards. It doesn't work.
In Shalom's own words, it's Azim's dream on Saturday, which is great for a bit of clicks. But it's
what's his dream?
What, to be an IBO world champion?
Oh, we all wake up, don't we? Yeah, when we're kids, when we first get into the sport and see that beautiful IBO belt.
But then that straight away gets undermined by Azim's trainer, Shane McGuigan, like I said to you boys last week, saying he knows what this belt is. It's a stepping stone to get him into the top 5 with the main governing
body. It's a fringe, it's that. I mean,
he's not even going to be called a world champion.
It's wheelie bin green for a start off. It's horrendous. Even the belt, it is though, isn't it? It's wheelie bin green.
There it is.
It's shit. And it does nothing for him, other than look good on a poster. Casuals will buy into this world title fight. But it's not, is it? Like you said, it's another version of a European title for me. It's that level.
I'm just going to play devil's advocate here. Back in the late 90s, early 2000s, Ricky Hatton was WBU world champion, wasn't he? And he defended it, 8, 9 times?
And WBF.
But he defended it 8 or 9 times, didn't he? And in that time, he built up this absolutely mental, fanatical fan base. If this is the route, I don't think Shalom's switched on enough.
Trademark that, by the way. IBO, you can't have that. You can't advertise as your wheelie bin green. I own that.
I don't think Shalom is astute enough to do this, but if the plan is to pick up a fringe belt, have decent defenses and generate a fan base, then I can understand it. But that's not in Ben Shalom's thinking. That's just me, what I'm trying to take from it, trying to draw a comparison to another British fighter. But, mate, we haven't got Dalton Smith. We've ended up with this. Fantastic. But tell me where Adam Azim's going to go next, because me and Sam have already discussed where we think Dalton Smith might go next. I want to see him in with Pitbull Cruz if Pitbull comes through on Saturday. Don't see where Adam Azim's going to go.
Azim's got nowhere to go, really. And
Azim's
it's a massive jump to world title level, and I can see him going in and being ill-prepared because he's getting, no disrespect, but he's getting gimmies. He's being... all right, O'Hara Davis is a great name on his record, but O'Hara Davis has not been O'Hara Davis for 4 or 5 years. O'Hara Davis has been semi-retired for God knows how long. He's never been fully committed anyway, has he, O'Hara? He's always been half in, half out. Yeah. Didn't turn up in certain fights, and even when he did win, he'd make it harder than it was. Azim's not getting tested, and I believe Dalton is. Dalton's doing it right. Ben Shalom is not doing Adam Azim any favours at all. He's going to be left out on the shelf at 22 years of age if he's not careful.
From looking at Wembley Arena as well, from like an arena ticket sale point of view, I think they've done 3, maybe 4K tickets in that 16K seater arena. That's the reality. The whole top bit is closed off, and there is seats in every.
You have to remember as well, Azim's one of boxers' prize.
He's their brightest star, mate. He is their brightest star at the moment. They're trying to get Callum Smith and Caroline Dubois there, but the reality is Adam Azim is their brightest star that they've put the most in over the last few years. He's had all the Sky money as well. Sky have invested heavily in him. And
I get where Dave's coming from with this comment. I think it was meant to be John Fernandez, wasn't it, at first? And now Dalton's vacated. Fernandez is going to fight someone else for that vacant belt. So I'll give Dalton the benefit of the doubt on Wizard. he wanted that belt, didn't he? Just to tick the box, like you said, Dave, and then he dropped it. He's already vacated, I think. So that just shows you what he just wanted to be European champion. And
he literally will not have got the belt yet. Sartonic won't have sent it out yet, and he's vacated it before he's got it.
The original opponent, like you say, Fernandez, was a European title-worthy opponent.
Scrap that. That was a good fight.
The fact that Dalton's injury hadn't healed, he had to wait till January, and we've ended up with Weezer being ordered. As crap as it was, and as big a mismatch as it was, and EBU need to take a huge look at themselves. Because of the circumstances around it, I'm willing to give it a bit more of a pass.
He didn't say that, Pat.
Sorry, mate. Yeah, I'm willing to give it a bit more of a pass. I completely agree. Fernandez was a much better fight than Walid Weezer. I was more excited for it, but you can't help it if you get injured and then the EBU order another opponent on you. I'm sure Dalton was still willing to fight Fernandez. It's not his fault.
I read that, Pat, somewhere earlier. It's on my list.
I've just listened to Eddie. I've just listened to him on TalkSport. They asked him about big fights that he'd like to make, and they asked him about Katie Taylor, and he said that Katie Taylor's half out the door. She's got two dream destinations, and he's hoping to make the Serrano fight, and those two dream destinations are Croke Park or Las Vegas. Benty asked him if they'd started on it, and he said no. So I don't know whether there's conflicting reports.
Croker has been a dream for pre-COVID times now for Katie Taylor. And as I've explained before, and Pat, just so you can understand from our side of the pond's point of view, Eddie Hearn could go into the Irish government building tomorrow with a blank check and say, I do not care how much it costs. I want Croke Park for Katie Taylor. They will still say on grounds of we don't have enough Garda personnel, which is the police force in place. They will come up with every single excuse to not allow it to happen. It's hard enough for Leinster rugby team, who are the biggest province in Dublin, to play a match there once a season. And that's happened every year for the last 20 years. They make that hard enough. They put capacity. It's an 82,000 stadium. They cap it at 50,000 most years.
Logistic disaster.
So they'll put any single restriction they can on it, which Eddie knows. So of course he's going to keep pushing away because he hopes he's going to find a hole in the wall. But the reality is, you can promise all the money in the world for it, but the Guards will find a reason to not allow it to happen.
I think we've got more chance of seeing the third fight in Vegas.
Yeah, look, to be fair, big Vegas fight is worth it. Mr. Dermo's here. Hope you're well, my friend. Thanks for joining us. Don't blame Sean too much for Azim. It's the McGuigans who make the decisions about Azim's career. Just goes along with it. The McGuigans are heavily involved, aren't they?
None of us know that, though, do we? We assume that.
Mr. Dermo,
I'm just saying people do.
Mr. Dermo, I'll point you into the direction of Shane McGuigan's YouTube channel. He started putting out these behind-the-scenes documentaries, and he actually sits front and center and talks in all of them, which is fantastic. And on Adam Azim, he's already come out and said that this IBO belt means the equivalent of sweet FA to the gym. They're not going to call him a world champion in the gym. It is a bargaining tool to give him better fights. So, yes, the McGuigans have history of not always looking after their fighters, allegedly in the best way. But in this situation, McGuigan is coming out and saying, look, we're not seeing this as a world title fight. We're being directed to by boxers. So I can understand where you're coming from, mate. But if you actually listen to what Shane and the team is saying, this isn't exactly the path they would want Adam to be going down, is my interpretation.
Yeah, I think that's well put there, Liam. Azim versus Kambosos, I don't really have interest in it, to be fair, Dave, personally.
Nah, me neither, mate.
But it wouldn't.
You think Ben's going to let him go to Australia? Not
absolutely not. I mean, you get
Kambosos
might get him over here, but I think Kambosos will price himself out of that fight. I don't think there's enough money in it.
Kambosos is only interested in big money fights, and Azim's not.
They won't pay that.
The Australia deal for Matchroom means Kambosos is not leaving Australia for a fight for another year at least. He's keeping himself firmly in Australia.
Come on to that, actually. I've got that on my list. This March 22nd, Australian card.
He's got at least two more that have to be in Australia. It's as good as in his contract. That's why he signed with Matchroom, DeBella, and Main Events, and Main Event Boxing. He will not leave Australia for anyone, and not a chance Ben Shalom will allow Adam Azim to go to Sydney.
Lucas said too many boxer fighters have been in a similar position to Azim, so blame can be cast with themselves. I do think that's a fair comment as well, most definitely. You know, everyone's making fair points on it, but what has to be said is they all link to the same final destination. That's that Adam Azim's career at the moment isn't in a position that he or Boxer or the McGuigans probably want it to be. Not through performances, he's performing great, but all the headlines about him seem to be people like us or the other promoters being interviewed by the outlets and all the rest of it. It just seems to be negative press towards Adam Azim, whereas we should be talking about how good a boxer he is because he's brilliant.
He's a 22-year-old kid that has, with what's been put in front of him, dealt with and made statements, and he has that razzmatazz and that raw appeal that TV networks want to see with his backflips after he wins and stuff like that. That is what a TV network wants. It's fantastic. But what's not helping him is Ben Shalom running in his mouth, saying we're going to do this, saying we're going to do that, and then we end up with, no disrespect, Ahara Davis, and then Sergey Lipinets. The issue here isn't Azim, it's Ben Shalom. Ben is like an excited school kid that can't wait to shout his mouth off when he's got the tiniest whiff of information that's maybe 2% true. If Ben learned a bit more and held his tongue and allowed things to progress, maybe 20% of the bad press we see on Adam Azim wouldn't happen, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Agree.
Anything else you want to add, by the way, before we move on, boys, about the Azim Lipinets card or the undercard or boxer or anything else?
I hope Callum Simpson doesn't slip up because we know he's got a big day at Oakwell at the end of July. The fact he's stepped in on 10 days' notice, I mean, a 2-round premature stoppage blowout, he was always going to still be in shape. There was never any danger of that. But Elvis Aruga, do not underestimate him and don't lose the fantastic opportunity you've got, if that makes sense.
I think he's been promised. Well, I mean, this is me speculating, obviously, but he's clearly gone and done Ben and Boxer and Sky a favour because he is a good name. He's not a huge household name, but he's a good name.
He's a ticket seller, mate. He'll get
exactly. He probably doesn't want to fight, but he fought 2 or 3 weeks ago. He's on the card for a reason, and he's fighting a level of opposition that he is for that reason. He's not really out of camp or anything, so he's probably been promised a big one back at home. I would say in return for the not the favor. Ultimately he's fighting, he's getting paid, but you get where I'm coming from, don't you? With it.
Yeah, he'd already come out 2 days before he'd been announced as the replacement on this card. He'd already said he knew what was penciled in for Oakwell. End of July, start of August, get ready for something even bigger than Zach Chili last summer. So he's already got that promise there. So you just got he's going to get some bodies into the arena, which Boxing need and Sky need for the TV visuals of the event. And it's an opponent that he should be able to, be in first or second gear, if we're being really honest. Just we see these banana skins slip up happen too often. Hopefully it won't happen again because Simpson is someone we've got to be really excited about from a British point of view at the moment.
Yeah, I think so. Right, just quickly, last couple before we move away from it. I agree with that, Luca.
Yeah, you're right.
The Chisora card's decent enough. You've got Parker against Hutchison, which would be a good one on the undercard for that as well. Catrell Barboza is going to be very interesting to watch. So, I completely agree with what you've done there.
You've got Pisses for the European title on the GBN card on Friday night next week as well.
Yes, that's right. Yes,
there's enough around next week.
Maybe fighting Janabek if he wins.
If I'm Denzel Bentley, I'm spitting feathers at that. Because, he's number one with the WBO. He's done everything he's been asked to do. I know he's had the shot before, but I'll be spitting feathers if I'm Denzel Bentley if that does happen.
Yeah, that's actually a really fair point, Liam. It is. Right then, boys, let's get into the best card this weekend and the best card this year so far. For me, David Benavidez versus David Morrell. All three of us have contrasting opinions on the final result, I believe, in this one. Now, we all picked the same result last week, didn't we? We all got it wrong for that in Harry Scarf beating. We're nearly there, though. We're barking up the right tree, weren't we? We just didn't quite anticipate the bomb from Conor Walker. But look, we'll go down the card. We'll start with the main event because I'm getting excited about it, thinking about it. Benavidez versus Morrell. I'm so bought into it. I've been watching all the build-up shows, the gloves are off kind of things with it. I've watched all the press conferences as they were happening, the shoving going on. I watched Benavidez and Andre Ward earlier. That was a great listen. Boys, what a match. I commend both of them for taking it, especially Morrell, to be fair. He's a lot less experienced in the pros than David Benavidez. He got the Cuban Cuban style, but it hits very hard as well, to be fair. And I think Benavidez' power's a little bit overrated, if I'm being honest. I don't think he hits as hard as his record suggests. But yeah, let me know. I know kind of the result that you're both looking at, but just more your thoughts on, you know, the you can go card top to bottom as well, but mainly the main event first of all. Then we'll get into Fulton and Figueroa et al.
Main events, as I've said, I think it's an even fight. I think Benavidez, we know what we get with him. He likes to fight in straight lines, clusters of punches, sits on the chest and overraws people and either gets them out of there or outpoints them. I just think the footwork of Morrell, the fact that he hits pretty hard, he's got a decent chin, his feet are really clever, he can manipulate space. Benavidez is not going to be able to trap him. I could see Benavidez being 3 or 4 rounds in front when it gets to like 6 and 7, but getting knocked down. I think this fight's going to be a 1 round, maybe 2 round fight at most. I've gone for the draw, but I think we could potentially see it hinge on the championship rounds. I think they're very evenly matched. I think Benavidez is slightly taller, slightly longer, but not by a massive amount. Yeah, I'm excited for it. It's the best matchup we're going to see in this weight division for now, you know. So yeah, I'm excited by it.
Yeah, look, I echo what Jay's just said. It's an outstanding matchup. They have sort of first dibs on laying down a fight of the year marker as well. These two, there's no way it can't deliver. I'm like Sam. I've been impressed with all the, you know, in-camp antics, face-offs, Andre Ward's interview with Benavidez. It's all bubbling along nicely, and it's also very PBC to allow 2 of their best fighters to fight each other. Saying that a bit tongue-in-cheek, you don't often see 2 O's going up against each other, even in in-house PBC fights. Benavidez, I described him on my show last night as the bridesmaid, and by that I mean he's beaten Caleb Plant, Anthony Durrell, David Lemieux, and Bubu Andres, just to name 4 world champions in his career. And the best belt he's got to show for it is a WBC interim world title.
Yeah.
He just can't get over that final hump, can he? And it's he's had 1 fight at 175 and he's back at being a WBC interim champion again. We know what they want to do with him. We know the way they're trying to maneuver him, but he can never get his flowers. He can never get his day in his white dress or white trunks and look the part. And everyone sort of seems to think that Morrell is just another person on the outside, not within the trade. On the outside, thinks Morrell is just another fighter to stand in his way and that Benavidez is going to deal with. I'm very much in the camp that Morrell is going to introduce himself on the world stage on Saturday night. We know about him inside the game, but this is his opportunity to show a more casual audience what he can do. An extensive, outstanding amateur career, a style it's still evolving into the pro game. I think he may be losing on the cards, but I've said an 11th round stoppage for David Morrell, and I'm happy to stick by that. I think his relentless pressure, which we know can last for 12 rounds, versus Benavidez, whose gas tank can tire in the second half of fights, as we've seen, is where the difference is going to lay. And if Benavidez feels like he's cruising and takes his foot off the gas and or tires, Morrell's going to catch him and drag out a stoppage in the 11th round. But fantastic fight.
It's a big call, but DJ Pat's certainly with you on it, Liam. Got a feeling we've seen an upset here. Morrell can take this. No clue why, but need to go with Morrell here. There's a lot of momentum behind him, and David Roper bang on the money. I thought it myself. Did have that. You remember the HBO 24/7s that they used to do? They were absolutely immense. It had that feel about it. They have done a good job actually with the hype and production and build up so far. The press is going to be lively tomorrow. The final press conference. I'll be tuning in and watching that and the weigh in and all the rest of it. I'm into the fight. T-Mobile Arena, big arena. You know, there's a lot to be said about the big cards being in Riyadh, and you know we're grateful for it because we get to watch them at normal time. But you know, a big Vegas card is still something that has that lore to it, doesn't it?
You can't be a big, and I'm talking a big proper fight night in Vegas like this is, where you're making yourself a cup of coffee and getting the matchsticks ready for your eyes because you don't want to miss it. It's not like last Saturday where I was slipping off, as you boys keep reminding me, during the Pacheco fight.
Give me 1 second.
All right, man.
A proper 50-50 scrap, a proper fight and it's had the build up as well. Like you say, it's like the HBO days. PBC, I mean, a bit too late in the game because it looks like they're going to be merging with DAZN in the next 5 months, finally bringing themselves to the table. It's a cracking fight. If I was in America and I had to pay $86 or $86 for the pay-per-view with how it looks, with it only being a 4-fight pay-per-view, I don't think I'd be overly happy. But for a main event and what the co-main event is with Figueroa and Fulton, you can't complain with those 2 fights. They're 2 outstanding matchups.
Yeah, I agree. Let's go down the card a little bit then. I for what it's worth, think Benavidez will win the fight in a really close one, sort of 7-5. But Jay's prediction wouldn't surprise me either. And to be fair, neither would yours, Liam. Nothing would surprise me apart from a Benavidez stoppage. That would surprise me. A Morrell stoppage would surprise me a lot less than a Benavidez stoppage.
Yeah.
I just don't think he hits as hard as what's suggested. But he could easily prove me wrong. What do I know? I know nothing. So Figueroa Fulton. Fulton won the first one on a majority decision. I watched it live at the time. It was a really good fight. He hasn't looked great fair enough. He lost to Inoue in Japan. But that last time on the Canelo Belanga card, he was on like the early prelims. He looked ropey, didn't he, against Castro? Yeah. Dropped heavy in the 5th round. He was gone. Figueroa for me has the momentum. He hits harder. Everything's in his favor to get that one back, isn't it? It's got the WBC featherweight championship on the line. Ray Vargas no longer. I think he's champion in recess or whatever it is. So Figueroa's now full champion. So it is a world title fight. I'm looking forward to it. Fulton maybe could regain some form. I don't know, but everything to me leans towards Brandon.
I think Figueroa looked off the first one, and I think he's looked better since. I think if he turns up, he'll make it look not easy but comfortable. Going off what we've seen from them both, recently, Fulton looked shocking. It looks shocking. And I think if Figueroa turns up, I could even see him stopping him. I really could. I know you might think I'm just saying that to be outlandish, but
no, I predicted a Figueroa stoppage. I think he stops him.
Yeah, I do myself.
And that's just on the eye test.
Yeah.
You talk about Stephen Fulton, and you can make excuses for him in the sense that during fight week he was demoted from being on the pay-per-view to being on the prelims, which he was not happy with. I remember us speaking at the time about some of his comments he was making. Dropped heavy, didn't look good. But having a deeper think about it going into this fight, I'm starting to wonder if at 126, what his strengths were down at Supermax.
Yeah.
They're negated. He was always a very good pressure fighter that could use his strength to sit on a fighter's chest at 122. He can't do that at 126. He's not big enough staturally, and he hasn't brought up to the weight in the right way. He's moved up in weight for me because his options are limited, rather than because he naturally has outgrown the weight and needs to move up. He's gone after bigger opportunities. Figueroa is the more natural 126 fighter. He's on a better tear. And yeah, Jay, I've agreed with you, and I've said I think it will be a Figueroa stoppage late in the fight. Coolboy looks off, unfortunately. I don't think 126 is right for him.
Don't suit him, man. It's not his division.
Yeah, you're right. I didn't even think about it. It's as if it's 126. But yeah, because he was unified. He fought and beat Figueroa for the unified championship down at 122. I didn't even consider. He beat Angelo Leo as well. He's had some good wins, Fulton.
And if he looks like he did against Castro, I mean, Castro dropped him and was very unlucky that there wasn't longer left in the 5th round, because I reckon he probably could have at least got another knockdown in. And that knockdown happened with about 45 seconds to go, I think. 20 by the time the ref had done his generous count and made Fulton walk around, sort of took the sting out of it, didn't he? So Figueroa will not let him off the hook. Figueroa will come out throwing bombs from the start of the fight. And this is where we find out if Stephen Fulton actually still wants to be at the top table of boxing, or if he's just doing it for paydays.
I agree. Hawkan's in the house. Hope you're well, Hawkan. He's got Figueroa with a late stoppage. I am with you there, my friend. He is, Dave. He's definitely exchanging more, and he ain't that guy. He definitely is. He doesn't hit hard enough for a start. and he's taking way more punches than he used to. But yeah, Liam could be in and around right on the weight. Maybe he's took some criticism about his style, what like Tim Bradley did and went to war with Provodnikov. Probably doesn't need to do it. But I'm looking forward to the co-main. Isaac Cruz back fight before that against Fierro. That should be a good fight as well. And you've got Jason Rosario. He's fighting. Remind me now. It's gone out of my head. Who Jason Rosario? Can't even think. Someone in the chat will remind me. But No, he fought to a draw against Jared Hurd, didn't he, on a Pro Box card not so long ago, Rosario. So they've got him back out. I can't even think for some reason who he's fighting.
Yeah, look, Pitbull Cruz has...
There you go, Ramos. Sorry, Lim. Mr. Dermos, help me out. Thank you, my man. Jesus Ramos.
Pitbull Cruz has screamed murder and robbery and all sorts of Riyadh season conspiracies since losing his world title against Valenzuela back in August. The reality is, for me, in that fight, he started 5 rounds too late. He was probably 4-1 or 5-0 down in that fight. And
he had a good first round, and Valenzuela just figured him out after that.
Yes, he maybe finished the fight stronger and won the championship rounds, but the damage had already been done. You don't win maybe the first round in 10, 11, and 12 and expect to hold on to your world titles. That's not how it goes. So
no.
This is also, like I've just said with Fulton, this is where we find out what Pitbull Cruz has left as well, because his style is so relenting and such a, he takes shots to land shots. If his heart isn't in there anymore with an opponent that's young and hungry and ready to seize a big opportunity on a pay-per-view card, Pitbull could be in all sorts of trouble again on Saturday night. I think he comes through, and I've backed him for a stoppage in the second half of the fight, but that's me thinking he's still got something left. If he doesn't, he's in all sorts of trouble again.
Yeah, on paper he should win this fight, but I've got a funny feeling he's going to get a beating at the weekend.
Stops or points, mate?
I think he'll get beat. I think he'll get beat on points, but I think he's going to get beat up. I think he's going to be made to look what he is. What is he? 40 odd, 41, 42.
I think he's that old. I'll show it now.
Isaac Cruz? Nah, he's not that old. Pitbull?
Sure. You sure?
He's 26, mate.
What?
Must be thinking of someone else.
Somehow it's my age.
Jesus Ramos.
So I turn 27 tomorrow.
You're thinking of the Pitbull.
No, I'm not thinking of the Pitbull from fucking MMA.
No, you're thinking of Pitbull the rapper, I was going to say.
No, Pitbull's not a rapper, mate. Pitbull's a fucking pop singer. I thought Isaac Cruz were like 30 odd.
Oh, dear.
Mr. Worldwide. It makes me feel better about how I'm looking at 27.
What the fuck? Where have I got?
That's the ego.
When he fought O'Hara Davis and that and knocked him out, I thought he were fucking like 39.
Are you on about Barroso? You are, mate.
I'm getting mixed up with Barroso's.
All right, that makes more sense. Yeah, okay.
But no, I think he's going to get beat up. I think he's going to get beat up.
Give the chat.
Mr. Worldwide.
Hilarious. I think he's going to get beat up.
Yeah, like you say, if Mr. Worldwide steps in that ring, then yeah, it's game over.
Oh dear. Gotta love it. Next gen on. Oh, here we go. Jay's not going to be happy with that, Luca.
I'm not even. I look fuck all like him, so I don't get it. If I did, then I'd laugh, but I don't. So,
it was just a sign. It was just a sign. Luca's going to keep.
I can't see it. Jay is far more handsome. Jay is the much better looking of a pair.
Yeah, Pitbull wouldn't bring in the views that you do, Jay. Just remember
he's not the housewife's favourite.
Ishmael Barroso maybe would, but definitely not Pitbull.
For a man in his early 20s,
yeah. Next gen's on Friday. We'll be doing a watch along for that. I'm
looking forward to seeing Boston.
Yeah, English title co-main. Jay, we've got Janae Boston, Bilal Fawaz. There's a bit of liveliness at the presser this afternoon, if any of you saw that. Boston shouldn't have too many issues, I don't think, boys. If we're
should he? If he's as good as we're being led to believe, and he's shown glimpses, albeit against limited opposition, but he's meant to be very, very, very good. And you know, we've all heard good things about him. We've seen good things. I think this is a progression. It's not a big step, but not a big enough step for him not to be able to showcase his skill set. And I think we see him get a pretty easy win.
Yeah, to be fair, I know what you mean. He looked one-dimensional, Pat, in the Valenzuela fight. Yeah, Jay, I'm with you. If he doesn't get rid of Fawaz in the early-ish rounds, I think, you know, if we're being told
he
he's
should,
as good as the noise coming out of the Steel City gym, that, yeah, I'm with you.
It's a difficult one because this has obviously been sanctioned for the English title, which is fantastic for Boston. That's been sanctioned for the English title, but Fawaz as a viable English title challenger just doesn't sit right with me when you compare their resumes. Look, these next gen cards are lined up to make the A side look amazing and to give them the proper main event fight night treatment, and that's what we're getting. That's what it's about. But
yeah,
the British title's vacant in this weight class, as me and you said last night, Sam. I expect them to be pushing for Boston.
154.
Yeah.
I expect that to be getting made, him to be getting called for the British title fairly quickly. Inside 5 rounds for me, I think he gets it done.
Yeah, I'll be surprised if it gets out of the first 3 or 4, to be fair.
Who could you see him fighting for British?
Well, it's a good question, isn't it? Because we looked yesterday, it's obviously vacant, so he's going to be in or around position to fight for it, isn't it? But, you know, we spoke, didn't we? It was like, you know, you had that transition from Cheeseman to Williamson to Josh Kelly, and then like 54 at British levels kind of gone a little bit flat.
Yeah, it's stagnated, hasn't it?
You know, I mean,
Ishmael Davis, do you think he could get back?
Yeah, that's the issue. A fair shot. Let us know in the chat if you can think of anyone that we're glossing over, because I had tried to cast my eye about searching for anyone, and no one springs straight away into me. Ish Davis is a good shout, to be fair.
Two that come to mind: Sam Gilly and Chris Congo. I mean, Chris Congo needs a fight. You can't keep doing 6 rounders on the Wednesday night Eddie Saudi.
Good shout. Good shout. Yeah. Sick of seeing him in 6 rounders.
Yeah, can't keep seeing him in them. Chris Congo, vacant British title. He's an ex-British champion. It's easy enough to make.
Yeah.
I would say it's easy enough to make. He is with boxers, so Ben may make that a bit complicated, but it should be a simple enough fight to make, and it would be a very good fight. It would be a test for Junaid Boston, and at the same time, Chris Congo says he's got a lot left to offer. Florian Marku defeat doesn't define him. Well, if you go out there and beat Junaid Boston, you're showing that you still got something to offer.
Yeah, definitely. We'll talk about the main event in a second. Håkan, you talking about potentially the Benavidez fight, are you?
Doesn't surprise me.
Because you said dollars. That's the only reason what makes me think that. That's interesting. Yeah, I haven't heard anything about Marcus since that whole thing broke Luca, to be fair. Don't want to misspeak on that topic, but yeah, just gone. I haven't heard anything. I don't know if any of you boys are.
Throw away the key.
Yes, he has. Benavidez. Håkan's talking about. So yeah, I'd be surprised. American fights sell a lot on fight week, don't they? They'll be gone by a year.
Their walk up, their gate walk up is massive, isn't it? That's what they do. At least 30% of their sales on.
Yeah. Lidard Azazi, Liam.
Pardon?
Lidard Azazi on Friday.
Look, this is proper matchmaking. This is kind of what the next gen card should be about. It's a 10-0 prospect that has come for a rapid rate of knots and dealt with everyone, against the more tried and tested fighter who's been there and done it, and his 2 defeats to come against the established names of Tyler Denny and Denzel Bentley. Look, if Lydiard is anywhere near as good as we are saying he's going to be, he makes a statement against Asazi. But if Asazi is really on it or Lydiard is off it on the night, then it's an absolute war. It's what it's all about. This is a test that we want to see for George Lydiard. It answers questions about how quickly they can then move him through the ranks. And it probably also tells Derek Asazi what he's got left in his career. If he can be competitive, even if he loses, but he maybe loses a 6-4 or a 7-3 type of decision, then it shows he's got some validity.
He can't go decision with a Bermondsey bomber.
You see what I mean, mate? There's like he's got to try and prove to himself that he's still a boxer. If he gets blown away, I reckon it's the end of Derek Asazi.
Yeah, I know what you mean. He was scheduled to box on that that Dubai card that Troy Williams.
Yeah, he was. You're right.
That fell apart fairly,
That was only going to be a 4-rounder, though, wasn't it? That wasn't anything much. That was just a comeback.
I haven't got a clue what it was, but what I mean is he tried to get back in, some momentum. And this is a tough fight for him because, Lillard's pretty good. He is pretty good. So,
Oh, my goodness. I favour Lillard.
Scored?
I think Celtic are 2-2 with Villa. They've just scored 2 goals. 2 goals in 90 seconds.
I've picked the draw. I'm not going to work tomorrow.
Liverpool's been working with old what's his face, Dr. Who's. Mr. Dermo says, we'll skid along that one. Don't want to insinuate anything. Don't want to insinuate anything there. People are saying on social they can't purchase Benavidez Merlon Primes outside its territory.
I haven't purchased it yet, but I've gone through to the point of purchase, and you can do it from what I've seen, Dave. It's an interesting one because obviously it does say on there when you go onto Amazon, it says not intended to be broadcast outside of the US. Fair enough, fine, but there's no other option for it. They've made it pay-per-view in the UK. It's not like other fights that have been pay-per-view in America, but we can just watch on Prime over here. It's a 20 quid pay-per-view job in the UK, and the rights are sold. I don't think even if Triller or Sky or someone wanted to try and pick them up now, I don't think they'd be able to because they were sold exclusively to Prime worldwide.
Yeah. Well,
I have seen those comments, though, with people struggling, but hopefully it's just teething issues because, look, it's not going to do many buys in the UK, but the 60 or 70 it is going to do. You want to make sure everyone... I'm being tongue-in-cheek, like making this pay-per-view in the UK is a bit of an own goal because it's a good enough card that should get eyeballs on it just as part of your Prime subscription for me.
Yeah, agree with that. Rambler's in the house. Hope you're well, Rambler. Put Omar Figueroa instead of Brandon on Thriller. That helps.
That's his Thriller, mate. Let's get into Roy Jones is their territory, isn't it? Nate Robinson, wherever the basketball player was.
Only boxing fights. Not in Sweden then, Pat. That's very unfortunate. Boys, let's get into some of the sound bites then from this week before we wrap up. Not so long ago, one of you boys put it in. So Teofimo's been ordered to fight the winner of Cattrall and Barboza within 180 days, taking him to.
It's about time, innit? It's about time.
That for me, just he ain't fighting the winner of that. Teo vacate.
Yeah.
180 days is either enough time for the Richardson Hitchens unification fights happen, so Cattrall or Barboza are frozen out, or he jumps up to 147. 180 days time is too much in terms of how we think Teo is going to move. If the Richardson Hitchin fights are at the negotiation stage we're believing they're at, then that gets announced in the next couple of weeks, or he'll vacate. He won't fight either of these two, so they're putting some heat on him, but they're putting it on him too late. If they had any balls about them, they would have stripped him and made this for the vacant belt instead of an interim.
Yeah, I thought that's what they were going to do. I saw the headline. When I saw Teo in the headline, I thought, here we go. They're going to strip him and bump him up. What does he have to do to get stripped? This guy is just pissing around. They're quick to strip people for not defending when they're already in a rematch clause and shit like that. And then they'll let people like Teo and Charlo and people like that just bumble around as world champions, not defending. There should be sort of a limit to people being allowed to dictate what they can and can't do. He's not injured. So,
Look, Teo's frustrating, and I put him in the same camp as I put Devin Haney, etc. And they talk all the game. They make it sound like they want to fight any place, anytime, anywhere. But then they always pull themselves out. They put all these sound bites out about who they want to fight. And then within a week, they're distancing themselves from it. It's
just the same thing. I agree with that.
Same shit, different day.
Yeah, same shit, different day. The winner of that would get elevated. Then if Teo got rid of the belt, Luca, Dave said Cattrall final eliminator.
Listen, he's the pound for pound reigning in emeritus.
The undisputed eliminator champion of the world.
Pound for pound eliminator.
What is this? His third in a row?
Bless him.
Like, in all seriousness, is his third or fourth in a row, this one?
Yeah, something.
You should get a belt. Just if you have three eliminators, you should just get a belt for winning 3 eliminators. Bless him.
He gets all the t-shirts and the hats, mate. He doesn't want the belt. He's happy. He's
yeah,
happy with
WBC cap on backwards.
You know what's going to happen, and I hate to say this, but I've got a funny feeling that by the time Jack gets his night, he'll have a shitty performance and will not win the world title.
It's not out of the question at all, is it?
His best days are going to be behind him soon. He's not that old. He's not as old as Pitbull, but
love it.
I've just got a funny feeling it's going to pass him by, and then when he does get his shot, he's not the fighter that he was, and it's a pisser for him because he should be the unified undisputed world champion, shouldn't he? But
I should say you've said that for a while. Actually, you have to be fair to you about Cattrall.
It's a real shame because I saw that about 5 minutes ago, mate. Yeah.
You're gonna lose me in a minute, boys.
Liverpool scored.
No, PSV scored. I needed a draw.
Jay's Fight Talk diaries again.
Boys.
He will, Dave. Dalton will get a shot. He'll get a shot next, Dalton.
City are losing, mate.
Jesus, it's all going on. Dalton will get a shot against Puello or Sandor Martin.
We'll come back in the room.
Is it in position?
It's a difficult one because Jack Cattrall, like you just said, Jack Cattrall was getting to a point where Dalton Smith getting a world title fight before him is becoming more and more of a realistic possibility. And if that happens, I mean, the whole point of Jack signing with Matchroom was to get a world title fight within 12 months. Well, it's been 18 months of the Matchroom deal now before he fights Barbosa in 3 weeks' time. And he's in exactly the same position as he was in with Frank Warren, and exactly the same position he was in when he sort of signed that hybrid deal with Boxer and Top Rank before the Taylor fight. It's not any further forward. It's accountability from the governing bodies is what I come to from this. Look, Jack Cattrall can't do anymore. He's righted the wrong against Taylor. He's won against Prograis and other fighters put in front of him. The governing bodies need to be held accountable because why are they allowing, like you say, Tio Lopez and Devin Haney and Ryan Garcia to hold on to belts when they don't fight and or fail drugs tests?
Yeah.
But Jack Cattrall can't get a world title fight. That's the frustration.
Stinks, man. Stinks.
Yeah. Lucas said Dalton will beat Jack. It's an interesting fight. I'd watch it for sure. Ryan Hong's in the house. Ryan.
Dalton's not ready for Jack.
Fight against Robbie. Lipinets didn't look like he had much resistance that night. But
I spoke with Darren Aston earlier on, and I'm pretty sure he said that people were saying that Robbie Davis versus Lipinets was one of the fights of the year.
It was absolutely immense.
I thought it was shit.
It was an exciting scrap to watch because I found it on YouTube on a Thursday morning. Didn't even realize it happened, but that's about as far as I go with it.
Yeah, it's because the fighting. Bless you. It's because of what we know Robbie was capable of and what Lipinets was capable of. I think that's why I was underwhelmed by it. In terms
it was
of
a barroom brawl. It wasn't a sweet science.
But it wasn't the most technical fight, was it?
No, you're a sweet science guy, though, to be fair, aren't you?
I think so, yeah. And I was disappointed. Lipinets looked really vulnerable at points throughout that fight, and he's never really looked vulnerable throughout his career. And Robbie Davis Jr. isn't the fighter he was since he did his ankle. Doesn't sit down on his shots as much. But, yeah, I don't think he gives much trouble for Mr. Azim on at the weekend.
I think 4 rounds. Azim gets him out of there inside 4 rounds.
I love the Pro Box cards, mate. They're brilliant. And it definitely was. Ryan, a couple more, boys, before we wrap up. It was announced after the last No Punches pulled the undercard for Eubank and Ben. I don't want to talk about the main event. Not bothered about talking about that. We've done it to the death. But what do we think of the undercard? Because there's been mixed reaction about it. The initial reactions like, it's not as good as the normal Riyadh cards. But then when you look at how far boxing's come since the first Eubank Ben fight was announced and the undercard, when you compare that, well, what are both of you on it? And anyone in the chat as well, what are your honest assessments on the undercard?
As stadium fights go, so let's forget what we saw at Wembley last September. As stadium fights go, it's kind of a typical undercard. So if you think back to Froch Groves 2, you had James DeGale on there, you had Kevin Mitchell on there, you had Anthony Joshua in his 6th pro fight on there, and I can't remember who the other fight was, but you basically had decent enough domestic names without having outstanding world title fights underneath a big main event. That's what this card is. Yes, okay, it's disappointing because it's dressed up and wrapped in a bow with Turkey in the Ring magazine, but it's what you get for stadium fights. I mean, think back to Fury Chisora 3. Daniel Dubois is the co-main event. Isaac Lowe was on there getting his usual slot on a Tyson Fury card. Oh, yeah. The rest was pretty much non-consequential and nothing to write home about. It's what you get.
Yeah, no, I know it is, Luca, but what I'm saying is the reaction online. I know Turkey's doing Ring magazine cards now, Ryan Garcia and Haney and all that, but the reaction online is comparing it to Riyadh season cards because Turkey's involved. Jay Rope-a-Dope's got a question for you. Have you warmed to Vidal Riley versus Chev Clark yet?
Nope. I don't know if that answers that question. No, I think it's a shit fight. I think it will be a shit fight. No.
It won't be action.
I'll watch it. Absolutely not. It'll be clinching, hitting on the break. Yeah, it'll just be underwhelming.
Beefy and McKenna will be a good fight.
Great fight. Absolutely. It'll be non-stop. That
might be the pick of the undercard for me, Beefy and McKenna.
So there you go. This goes back to my point. You normally get one fight on these stadium undercards that's a really good fight for the fans. Daniel Dubois was that name on the Fury Chisora 3 card. It was a better fight than we expected because he got knocked down 2 or 3 times. That's what Beefy Smith and McKenna is on this card. It's that fight that's going to get people in their seats early enough so they're ready for the main event. We've become spoiled as boxing fans, and I think the Riyadh season card at Wembley, where every single one of those fights could have been a main event, has only further heightened that entitlement from certain people in the boxing space. The reality is, you go back pre-Riyadh season, this was your standard stadium card. Big main event, and then decent enough undercard fights, but nothing, to whet your appetite or write home about.
Yeah, this is CBS Glance will be a cracker. Luca wants
I don't know if I call it a cracker, mate. I think
City have gone behind.
CBS will come through that fairly comfortably.
It depends what he looks like. Me and Jay were chatting about it the other day. It depends what he looks like after, because Zerdo did put a bit of a beating on him, to be fair. Zerdo doesn't hit hard, but Chris Bennett-Smith was beat up that night in Riyadh. He was outclassed, and that's fair, Dave, as well, to be fair. When was the last time we saw a fully fit Liam Smith?
Did he fight at MSG on the first Taylor Serrano card?
I couldn't even tell you.
Whoever that was, that's the last time we saw a fully fit Beefy, because he wasn't even fully fit in the first Eubank fight, was he? He had was going into that. The last fully fit Beefy, that's going to bug me. We'll have to find out, because he was a massive underdog on that, and then he won by knockout. Yeah, I remember it happening, but I can't remember who it actually was. It one of the American up and comers or something? Jesse Vargas.
Oh, sorry, Vargas. Yeah, that was it.
10th round stoppage, but yeah, he was quite well up on the scorecards as well.
2 more to cover off then, boys. If you want to talk about it, Mick Conlon signed to Wasserman. He's back on March the 7th with Grant Smith. Any way back to world level for, well, I guess he wasn't technically at world level, although he fought for world titles.
Nah, his best days are behind him.
Will Grant Smith get a bounce out of him, or?
Nah, he'll probably knock over a couple of cans and then he'll get a fight in Ireland. He might get a shot against someone because he can fill a small arena, but no, I haven't liked what I've seen from him in his defeats.
Chin's gone.
If it was ever there, we never really saw him get cracked and have to come through anything, did we? He was good at avoiding shots and, beating people on volume, but he's had a couple of scary losses, hasn't he? Obviously the Lee fight, which was an anomaly. That was an anomaly, but that was scary. And then Jordan Gill knocked him out. And that was pretty scary. And they got knocked out in his world title challenge, didn't he? And he always gets pretty much flatlined.
Yeah, he's getting iced. He's not getting like stopped on his feet.
What I will say is Grant Smith wouldn't take him on if he didn't think he could do something with him. So we have to trust Grant's judgment. I don't believe he would do it just to be associated with Conlan. Conlan's not that big a name to. Do you understand what I mean? Does that make sense? I think Grant must see something. So we've got to trust his judgment as a world level coach.
Look, like you've just said, mate, the Grant Smith link up excites me because it must mean Grant seeing something. Because, like you say, he's not just going to carry a fighter that's not really got any ambition left. But everything else, going with Wasserman, really, really weird move. It just doesn't. And then,
probably his only choice, though.
Yeah, I don't think.
After walking away from his brother, who wasn't going to get anywhere near Queensbury or anything, because that's who they're tightly tied with. And then, look, you say he's going to knock over some tin cans. He's got a 6-rounder against an Indian fighter. His record is probably something you've seen on the back of a McDonald's napkin or something, if we're being really honest. And to top it off, he's going on a card on the same night as the Albert Hall card for Lauren Price and Tasha Jonas. So it's a weird move all round.
I agree. Any chance Wasserman sign if you want to get a TNT contract?
Nope.
I doubt it personally.
Boxer have got more chance moving over to TNT, and even that's
It's a big. That would have been a massive fight 18 months ago, Dave. It's interesting, but now they're both coming off like 3 defeats in a row each or something, aren't they? It's a tough. It can headline like a Channel 5 type card probably, and we've watched. There'd be a war, but that's kind of the level that it's at now for me. But you got Leeds versus the Belfast crowd, and that maybe they could spin it off, but no interest really because they're both getting beat every fight, aren't they? And Warrington's retired, hasn't he? Is he retired?
No.
Did he not?
Well, he did.
But
then he came back to that show, didn't he? Where he was, I don't know whether he was
what he looked like
doing the hairstyle for a bet. He did look as old as Isaac Pitbull Cruz with that hairline. Jeez, I think he sort of hinted at a potential fight or comeback if he's been retired less than 2 months, 3 months. But I think Warrington would walk through Conlan. Even a Josh Warrington that's stepping out of retirement.
Yeah, look, he held his own with Kakachi, didn't he? And Kakachi's on a bit of a tear. Darren Aston in the house, search out a lot of boxing. Yeah, look forward to watching Jay's Fight Talk on there. I'm sure that'll be released in the next day or two, or was it live, Jay?
We're going again after this, mate. There was a technical issue with my microphone.
All right, no worries. Well, we'll look forward to it. Anyway, go subscribe to Darren's channel. Some great
a lot of boxing. Get yourself over there. He pulls no punches.
Look, I think if Conlan's 2 of the 4 knockdowns against Jordan Gill were from jabs, if that's not a sign that a boxer's chin is gone, then that's the biggest telltale sign. Warrington probably would beat Michael Conlan, even though Warrington's 30-40% off where he was at his prime. It's a fun Channel 5 fight, and to be fair, we laughed at it, but Conlan signed to Wasserman, who were with Channel 5, so let's see it made on a Friday night. 10
You'd have to pay Warrington a lot of money, though. They'd have to pay him.
Yeah.
They're going
to have to.
We spoke about it last week being a rumor, but it's now official. Boots Stanionis for the Unified Welterweight Championships. That's going to be good, isn't it, boys? And we spoke about Atlantic City getting big fights back again.
If you'd have asked me 8 to 12 months ago, what a random. If you'd have asked me a year ago about this fight, I would have picked Boots Ennis 100 times out of 100. After the Chikatsian fight, the Karen performance, I'm not sure if this fight was close.
I don't think he's. Yeah, I agree. I think 154 would be his best weight.
Yeah.
Honestly, I do. Yeah. Get out of here, Dave.
Brian Lara?
No,
that's the only Lara he's got.
The Mexican who ices every single person he gets in the ring with.
Mad.
I think in time that you're right. His best division is 154, but he sees an opening to at least unify 2 or 3 of the belts at 147 because of the way everyone's cleared up to 154. And then he gets to 154 when a lot of these guys are cleared away from there. And I'm not saying he's taking soft touches by any chance, but he's strategically positioning himself to pick up as many belts as he can. And you can't begrudge him doing that. He's got the skills, so make hay while the sun shines. Definitely go for it.
Yeah, I agree with that. Lastly, then, I was meant to mention it a little bit earlier, but I didn't. So we got the full announcement then to that March 22nd card in Sydney. What are you and everyone else's thoughts in the chat, boys, on... Yeah, he is. I saw that, Dave. I saw him from Nick, to be fair, to Mauricio Lara. Lastly, sorry, I'll read Pat's comment before we go into the Aussie card. Boots said he was not locked in. Boots wasn't right that night, in fairness, but at the same time, was he not right because he's dead at 147? There are question marks around Boots into this.
Listen, if Boots is not near 100% for this fight, he will lose. He will lose this fight. He has to be on it. He has to be the Boots that looks like he's 5 speeds faster than his opponent, doing the slow-mo, and they don't know where he is, and he's pivoting to the left, and then he's pivoting to the right. If he stands straight in front of this kid, he'll get whooped. He'll get whooped, and I never thought I'd hear myself say that about him, but yes, he may have underestimated Karen. But look, there were times in that fight he looked real vulnerable. And yeah, Stanionis will put it on him, and he needs to have it all there. And if he's drained at 147, then good luck, because you need it all for this kid.
Yeah, look, Stanionis will put it on him, but if Boots is the Boots we hope he is, then he passes.
He'll beat him.
Yeah,
if he is, but I mean, we haven't seen him since, have we? So
this March card, mate, is. I'll watch it because it'll be on while I have my cocoa pops, but it doesn't excite me. I mean, there's so much money in this link up between main event, DeBella.
So why aren't they get the opponents there then and make this card a signature Aussie card? I think I was talking to Jams Boxing about it yesterday, and he was so excited for the card, and I'm like, are you trying to convince yourself?
To be fair, the Sky fight's decent. Like, I think she's fighting Tiara Brown. It's no, I don't mind that fight, to be fair, but the rumored opponent for Horkan, just help me out here, it's not official, but it is kind of. Kambosos is fighting that Indonesian guy. Poor. That's the main event as well. That's poor. Terra Moana, fair enough. He's only 5 or 6 fights into his pro career. He's going to fight who he's going to fight.
He's exciting. Yeah.
Yeah, and then you've got that Johnson versus Hughes rematch, isn't it? Was that where they announced?
They announced the wrong one, didn't they? Yeah.
I can get behind that as well. I don't mind. It was
a shit fight.
Agree with that, Dave.
It wasn't a great fight, was it? The first one. The best thing about it was the
best thing about it. No pressure on the ring announcer for that one.
it's unfortunately it's a substandard card that is going to be even more criticised by the likes of us because of how big this Australian matchroom deal was bigged up to be.
Yeah.
Cry caviar from the roofs and then deliver us fish finger sandwiches. Like you saying you're going to give us A star and we're getting C.
I'd take a fish finger sandwich over caviar.
Mate, so would I. All day long.
Use a different analogy, brother.
The point still stands.
Can't say I know what caviar tastes like, but I'll take you.
Doesn't look like it tastes as nice as a fish finger. Let's put it that
way. We can ask Chisora who's eating caviar. Have you seen Chisora?
Yeah, I heard Frank took him out for caviar, and he's saying that Eddie never done that for me.
Look, it's just disappointing, and we're going to be even more critical, like I keep saying, because of how big the announcement was. It's frustrating. It's the type of fight as well where if Kambosos loses, then 30% of your marketability in Australia for your deal is screwed in the first fight.
Yeah.
Because Kambosos is there for bigger fights and bigger challenges. But if he slips up here, he's absolutely screwed.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Look, you've got what's the Irish guy's name? Connor Wallace. He's in and around it as well. There's others that are in that link up. So, I don't know if they'll be added to the card or what may be, but I thought they'd go bigger than what they had. Nikita's
I said, just just that comment there. I think I said, didn't I? Tim was sat with his brother the other day, and I thought that he said there was an announcement. Is it going to be one of the shoes on this card, or as I say, Maloney's?
One of the Maloney's, I think it's Andrew, is out on the Nakatani card on the 23rd of Feb. So we won't see him, and his brother, I think,
fighting that kickboxer guy, isn't he?
Yeah.
What's his name? He was in Ryzen and that fight. He was unbelievable. He fought Mayweather. Mayweather made him cry.
Tucker.
He was the guy Mayweather made him cry after the. Yeah, tension. That's it.
Tension, the blonde-haired kid.
Yeah. He's fighting Maloney. Yeah, that's him. He's had a good start to his boxing career. He's knocking everyone out.
Yeah, he hasn't boxed anyone really yet, though, has he?
He's fought some half-decent fighters, to be fair.
5-0.
12-4-1. He's heading to 15-12-1, 17-2-1, 9-0, and Maloney's 27-3.
Yeah, his last Maloney was under, and he was a decent guy. Go down his record. The other guy, he's half decent, I think. So fair play to him. He's actually fighting.
Okay, take that back then.
Maloney's a huge step up, but if we're being honest, we're wondering if Maloney's there to offer anything.
He'll knock him out. He'll knock Maloney out.
That's the co-main Pakistani on Monday after the Riyadh season card, so that's something to look forward to.
Yeah, look, it's on a Saturday, and they're normally midweek, aren't they? The Aussie cards. So it's going to be a Saturday morning job, so can't argue with it.
No,
too much. Yeah, I'm in. Sign me up for that, Dave.
Oh, please.
Yeah, look, I think I'll cover it. There hasn't been a great deal going on in the world of boxing this week, it has to be said, but we'll be back tomorrow for the remainder prediction shows. Friday, we're going to do Lidard and Zazi and the who's the other one? Can't even think now. Who's the co-main again on the next gen? Janae Boston against Fawaz. We'll do the watch-alongs for those on Friday night. Of course, Azim on Saturday. I'll definitely be there for Benavidez, Morrell. I'm sure the boys will fancy it as well.
Yeah.
So plenty to come this weekend. Just want to say a huge thanks to Jay and Liam, as always,
thanks for having us, man.
Joining me for another great show. And to David Roper, Hawkan, DJ Pat, Luca, Darren Aston, Sir Chat a Lot of Boxing, Mr. Dermo, Ryan Hong, Rambler, lots of others as well from what I can see, but I can't read that far up. But yeah, so if I've missed anyone, apologies. Thank you very much, guys. Make sure you catch Liam's Fight Night picks. That is true, Jay. Over on the Steve Talk Boxing channel with Luke at Simbox, Straight Talk on JFT. If you haven't subscribed, these boys are doing a new weekly show that's absolutely brilliant. I even chimed in with a few comments myself about Jake Paul versus Logan Paul last night. So
nearly got banned from the chat, mate. Gonna be honest.
You're getting blocked, mate.
One more.
Yes, thank you very much for that, Pat. Yeah, of course, I could forget. Clarissa's fighting on Sunday night for the Unified Heavyweight Championship of the World. Dave. We'll have a look at it. Thanks, Mr. Dermer. Much appreciated. Thanks for giving up your time and watching. Any final comments, boys?
One more thing that's just come out. The 22nd of February card is going to be $19.99 in the UK.
Not for me, it's not. Sorry, did I say that out loud?
No, not at all, mate.
I just mean I won't be watching.
That's fine.
Honest.
Yeah, so you're just going to be relying on us during the watch along, mate. We got you.
Yes.
You're not watching Better Be a Bibble?
No, I'm not. I can't afford £20. You're mad.
Look, Turkey's sticking to his promise of keeping it at
20 quid,
which is more where I'm going with it, well, rather than how people choose to watch it. But yeah, well, thanks for having us on again, mate. Have a good week.
Man. Thanks for joining us.
Cheers, everybody who's joined us. Thank you, boys. And this time next week we'll do it all over again. Terry Harper, Jimmy Johnson will have a homecoming in Doncaster. Look,
no one cares.
Not
unless Terry Harper's in a unification or a big fight. What are they going to do? Doncaster Dome, 500 people.
He's going to be in a corner.
Well,
depends if he gets home leave or not.
We'll keep an eye on it. Thanks as always, Hawkan. Thanks to everybody else. We'll see you next week, guys.